Has anyone noticed that most of today's films' art styles are similar to other or lack any artistic style? The lack of an art style is a common problem in the movie industry that makes most films less memorable and less likely to gain the attention of the audience. If you want to make your movie memorable, you have to make your movie look unique from other films. But first, let's talk about art style. When we're talking about movies, an art style is the consistent way that you present your film and its story, the way you use art in your film to complement or give more impact in the scenes is that what makes an art style. An art style is used to make your film look more attractive to the eyes and give personality to your film, which helps to make your film more memorable to the audience. The problem of lacking an art style is seen more in live action films. These films share this problem most because most of them aim to look as realistic as possible, which can work for some films, but can more than likely fall into the problem of the audience thinking that said special effects used in said movies either look fake or silly, which interrupts the tone of the movie, or have already seen those effects before causing the audience to feel bored. And most of the time, a lot of live action films just feel dull because either the actors aren't trying hard enough or look lifeless. Live action films of the superhero, sci fi, and action genre fall into the special effects problem of relying too much on CGI to the point of looking like other films of said genre or not using CGI to complement actions of the actors. Sometimes even animation, a medium in the film industry that's all about art, runs into this problem, but instead of lacking an art style, they lack unique art by following an algorithm that will get them more money instead of telling a story through animation. In other words, cash grabs. Let's first talk about examples of films that lack an art style. For live action, Marvel's latest film, Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao, I think that's how you pronounce the name, into the category of relying too much on CGI to the point that it looks similar to other films or of the sci-fi and superhero genre, and makes scenes where they don't need CG look fake and silly. One scene in the beginning of the movie, Thena, played by Angelina Jolie, is fighting a monster of an alien species called deviants, which the movie appropriately uses CG for. The problem for this scene is that the movie also uses CG for Thena when she simply slid behind the deviant, which can easily be done without CGI, with a stunt double, or even Jolie herself can do it. The worst part of it is that some of the CG made in the movie looks extremely fake and kind of interrupts the movie by making it look silly. For example, every time Icarus, played by Richard Madden, uses his laser, it looks unintentionally hilarious. As for animation, look no further than the company Illumination, known for making the Despicable Me franchise, Sing, and The Secret Life of Pets. All these movies follow what I like to call the soulless algorithm, because it avoids the use of creativity by only using celebrities to voice their characters, even if they can't voice act, reference everything that is currently trending, and limiting your film's jokes to only the lowest kind of humor. The problem with only using celebrities is that most celebrities don't know how to voice act, which is, believe it or not, a different skill from regular acting, which would make your characters feel less believable and less alive. The problem with trying to be as trendy as possible with your film is that eventually those trends won't be popular, and when it dies, your film will become outdated. And the problem with limiting your jokes with the lowest kind of humor is that it appeals only to children and when they grow up, they will most likely cringe at the fact that they thought those jokes were funny. This algorithm may work for a while to earn money, but it costs the memorability of an animated film. Now let's talk about what ideas and examples you should consider when trying to create a memorable film. Let's start with live action, since there is a lot of ideas that barely anyone uses in recent films. Like I stated earlier, the problem with most live action films is that most of them look lifeless and dull, sometimes because of the actors not trying hard enough. My solution to this is to give live action films more artistic personality with the use of special effects to give the actors more impact to their actions or to a sound effect that plays in the scene. A cult classic film named Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, directed by Edgar Wright, is a perfect example of using special effects to give a character's actions more impact. The film is based off the graphic novels Scott Pilgrim, created by Brian Lee O'Malley, is about a young adult named Scott Pilgrim, played by Michael Cera, who falls in love with Ramona Flowers, played by Mary Elizabeth. But in order to date her, Scott must defeat all of Ramona's 7 evil exes. Throughout the film, whenever a character does certain actions, comic book like effects appear to give them more impact. When a character is playing the drums, impact lines appear per beat. The film also does this with sound effects too, like when a doorbell rings, the words ding dong appear. It may not have been a successful film in the box office, but over time, the film became a memorable cult classic. Another thing you could do is use different art forms for certain scenes. You could have a flashback scene done with animation, painting, etc. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid films directed by Thor Freudenthal are good examples of doing this. The film is based off the popular book series by the same name, created by Jeff Kinney, and used this to its advantage by having certain scenes be animated in the art style of the books to show Greg Heffley, played by Zachary Gordon, perspective of what happened. This helps the audience better understand Greg's character, showing the audience his perspective on things or his desires. Thankfully, this film did do well in the box office and even got 4 movies. Speaking of animation, the animation industry has evolved a lot as of recent years. I honestly don't have much to say about this since a lot of these ideas have already been done as of recently. All I really have to say is to avoid the soulless algorithm. Don't limit your creativity. Try to do something different with the limitless techniques and styles of animation and appeal to a different audience other than children. For styles of animation, take a look at both films, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, directed by Michael Rianda, and Spiderman Into the Spiderverse, directed by Peter Ramsay, Bob Persichetti, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, and Rodney Rothman. Both films mixes both 2D animation and 3D animation by using 3D animation for basic stuff like models, props, and locations, but uses 2D animation for special effects, character expressions, and facial textures. Spiderverse uses different colors for its backgrounds and scenes depending on the setting or tone of the scene. Spiderverse also uses different art styles for the 3 other Spider-Men. Penny Parker, played by Kimiko Glenn, has an anime art style. Spider-Ham, played by John Mulaney, has a Looney Tunes-like art style. And Spider-Noir, played by Nicolas Cage, has the art style of a black and white comic book. Although the Mitchells vs. the Machines didn't get a theatrical release, it was instead put on Netflix. Both films were very successful at the time of its release. Spiderverse even won the Academy Award for Best Animated Featured Film and is even getting a sequel set to release next year. For a film that appeals to a different audience other than children, we have another cult classic named Rango, directed by Gore Verbinski. Although Rango is categorized as a kids' film, the story and script says otherwise, with its more mature theme about outlaws, death, and identity, not to mention the constant use of dark humor. Although the film does go for a realistic art style, with the textures and colors, it fits perfectly with its design, animation, and tone the movie is going for. Just like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Rango didn't earn much money or attention, but as the years went by, Rango became a cult classic and is getting more attention now than its release. And just like Rango, Spider-Verse doesn't just appeal just to children, but also teens, young adults, and adults, with its themes of loss, getting back up on your feet, and adapting to change. These films become memorable because they don't follow the soulless algorithm or take shortcuts because it's easier, but instead do something completely different that they worked passionately for. What I'm suggesting is that we as artists shouldn't limit ourselves to what everyone else is doing and instead create something that only you can create. Something that shows that you put all your blood and sweat and tears into it. Show the world who you are through your art. Tell stories that only you can tell. Don't take shortcuts, but most importantly, have fun with your art. Whether it be an artwork, movie, comic, TV show, or song, just have fun with it. And don't let anyone limit you from doing your best.